It's uh
Hello, everyone. So, I have not done a podcast episode or an interview like this potentially in we're talking years at this at this point, but we've got some really, really important things happening, and there is not a better person than Christy to speak about this. The very important things happening is that our integrated power healer certification is going on for year 4, which is wild in itself. Like, how are we on year 4? How is this happening? I don't understand. And Christy, actually, I think you joined us for year 1 and 2. Is that correct? Were you in
yes.
year 1 and 2?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And I really wanted Christy to speak to her experience within the Integrated Power Healer certification because she's probably not who you expect to find in a certification program. We hear the word certification and we think, it must be for everyone who wants to become a traditional online healer kind of thing. But one of the things that we find within our program is that a lot of people that are professionals, that are brilliant, that are geniuses in what they do, but they're at this point in their life where they're saying, wait a minute, is this it? And actually, Chrissy, I'm going to ask you to speak to this better than I can in a second. This moment of disenchantment, I think was the word that we used the other day. It's a really good journey. We actually call it the ultimate rebirth for, yes, people who want to become practitioners, but also people who don't just want like surface, band aid, basic, what we find on Instagram healing. They actually want the science and the depth. But also people that are going on through a really big transition. So, Christy, do you want to tell us where you're at in your life when you found us? That's a good place to start.
Taking some time travel back in time here. Yes, so I I'll take a little step back further because I was the 40th employee at Zoom back in 2015. I built and grew the global education segment, which actually led into every other segment. I also founded and led Women at Zoom. So that was from 2015 through 2023. And it was nonstop since day one, right? Being at Zoom, it was nothing but a rocket ship ride since we started. And then Q going into the pandemic, I had just gotten out of a very unhealthy relationship, was excited to go to President's Club and go to a spa day and get to chill. And I went out to London to at the start of 2020 to launch Women at Zoom. And lo and behold, the pandemic hit, went under lockdown for about 5 months in London. And then I would like to say things at some point slowed down, but they never did. They only expedited. So I'd sleep for about 15 minutes at a time with my laptop. I was leading teams across the globe, so I was on calls at all hours of the day and night. Never before had I seen so many, like the best and worst of humanity come out, as well as, leading a team through that, leading teams through that, leading Women at Zoom through that, and then also, what it feels like to have your inbox, your phone ringing off the hook and people in kind of desperation mode, as well as, all of the emotions that come with it. So, what I had started doing at the end of 2022 is I was building kind of the next round for education. And lo and behold, 2023, January, February hits, and Zoom did a reorganization, cut education. And it was like, wait, what? What is happening right now? I laughed, but it was very like jarring, devastating. I was like, this can't be real. Like I was driving back from Santa Barbara down to San Diego and I got basically locked out of everything immediately. Um, because that's how tech companies were doing it in the US at the time. And that's kind of how I ended up here because what I didn't realize was how out of whack my central nervous system had gotten. I was still running fully on adrenaline, and I'd been doing that for way, way longer than my body could technically sustain. I remember a point in time, maybe a year and a half before that, where I was pretty much on the floor going, I can't do this anymore. And then I was like, okay, going into battle, I have to go get up and I have to do this, right? And so that's kind of the state that I was in where, when I came here, I had so many walls built up. I had so many protections built up. And again, my central nervous system was just completely shot.
Yeah, so I really actually want to talk about this because we get a lot of women who have had these style positions that when they begin with us, it really is a nervous system, a health thing that is initially interesting to them. So, Christy, you said that you were sleeping for 15 minutes, and then like what all day and night?
Yeah, I would take 15-minute naps and I'd literally have an alarm set because I had sleep. So I'd go and like sleep for 15 minutes with my laptop and I'd get up and then I'd be on the next call because that's how rapid things were going. And I think as a leader, especially, I mean, everyone was going through this and it was like, well, you know, I have to. Like, this is there, I have to. And I think what I want to say here is I think there's something about this concept of also being really strong. And that was a lot of my ethos before, like, I have to be the strong one for everyone else. Meanwhile, everything else is like shattering and I'm having a full tower moment in my actual life.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. One of the things that we work on in the Global Uni and in the certification program is how can you build success without abandoning yourself, right? And it's these sneaky little belief systems like, I've got to be the strong one, I've got to be the one that holds it together, that kind of lead to this type of behavior. And so, what were you finding health wise was happening for you? So, you said that you were exhausted, you said that you had all these walls up, which I want to talk to in a second, but kind of what else was going on in your body?
I mean, everything like this is so funny for those out there that listen that have ever watched the show Saved by the Bell. There's this episode way back when. It's like an old show, right? But there was an episode where one of the characters like she starts taking like caffeine pills and then like is so strung out. That's kind of how it felt like where she had to like take off for taking this test and it was like I was strung out. I was also feeling very lost. I mean, I was being called back to music, which we'll also get into, while I was hosting sessions for women at Zoom and I was doing writing and reflection sessions. And in every single writing and reflection session, it was like, you have to write, you have to sing. And I get kind of nudges from the universe and I'm like, nope, I have to stay focused on this. I don't have time for this right now. And so it actually ended up being a blessing, in disguise in a lot of ways. But I can remember walking around my little flat, and that's how, again, I came here. I was like, somebody gets this. Like, I'm heard, and I have a background in psychology. I've done a lot of work in a lot of kind of traditional westernized forms of things that I always found fell short over my course of time. I was always looking for how to this bring together like what's actually happening, not just what's happening in your physical body, but what's happening in your like spiritual and emotional and mental well-being and what is happening and how those all tie together. So it
Yeah,
was a lot
Christy.
at once. I was
No,
feeling
but
very
yeah.
like lost and like
So tired but wired, feeling that you can't stop, everything's urgent, your body's clearly not doing well with this sense of chronic urgency, but feeling that there's no space to stop. And it's really interesting because something that we do within the integrative healing system is the soul's body, and we look at actually the soul's journey and how very often things that are perceived as bad, like, you know, Zoom having a restructure and ending up losing your position there, that seems from our traditional sense of success like a bad thing, right? Like tech company, oh my God, what are you going to do now? It's a once in a lifetime opportunity, right? And the thing is, if we think this way, it can become a bad thing. It's like how you choose to perceive it means that you find the opportunity, right? Or this becomes your rut for the rest of your life, right? And so, like Christy said, I think you came to a training that we did February or
it was February.
January.
It was January because it was ironically, it was right before this happened, and I didn't know that was coming. Like the Santa Barbara office had closed. This happened. And also, a side note, I'm on very good terms with everyone at Zoom, and I love Zoom. But just to, but I came, yeah, in January, and then this happened in February. Like the,
Amazing. That
yeah.
was the timeline. Yeah, because this
Mhm.
is the thing. It's an interesting thing. It's like we can talk about experiences and all shade of experiences without saying, oh, Zoom's bad or this is bad, right? Like that it's just talking about your experience within a certain context. So you came to a live event that we did in January, then February, the everything went down, and then you joined us maybe in March, April. Did you
Yeah.
make a choice, a conscious choice before joining us that it was going to be the best thing ever and that you were going to go into music? Or was this through the work that we did? Like, fill in some of those gaps for me.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I think not fully knowing what to expect, I think is important to note, right? But I just was following a thread and following like what my soul was calling me for. And so all of this happened. It actually, and I think that's why I officially joined the CERT in April because I went and I think I was actually on my journey because I went and traveled with my pup in France and Italy for 2.5 months because I went, okay, I need to change my environment too. Um, and I think I was on calls actually when I was there, which makes a lot of sense. And then that's also where the album kind of came and my music came to into light and to being. And so it was a lot of soul reflection leading into it, but it was also going. I remember the moment before I even joined, I was like, yes, I'm all in on this. And I think that is really important. And sometimes like before you jump in, but when you know. And that was something that I was like, this makes so much sense. And this was a really big one for me. It's like, no, I can't do this alone. Like, I can't keep being the one that has all the answers. I can't, I need to be in community and in a place of learning, which has always been really important for my ethos to be in a place of learning.
I totally agree with that, and actually, I really resonate with that. I think it happens to a lot of women in business, whether you're in a corporate structure, whether you're in a tech structure, whether you're an entrepreneur. It's very easy to get into this mindset of, I don't even know who we're trying to prove something to. You know, this like, I can do it on my own, I didn't need to ask for help, I can figure. And it's like, ultimately, the question comes down to, well, you might be able to, but do you want to, right? Like, do you actually? I don't think you do, right? We all
Yeah.
feel held, whether it's in community or whether it's people that have done the work, the internal work that we're now going to do. And it does make a big difference, especially when you look at nervous system healing, right? You're looking at how we can create a sense of safety in the body. Again, that's basically what it is. And there's different forms of it, and we do lots of different forms of it within the certification program. But ultimately, that's what it is. And so let's actually talk about the certification. And like, this is probably clear for everyone, but what I love about Christy's journey and the reason that I wanted her to speak about it, it's that, imagine this, okay? And you've probably already heard it, but I want to really, really, really anchor it in. Christy's done what you're told to do, and she's become hugely successful. She finishes university, she goes to Zoom, like Zoom blows up, she has this amazing career, right? And it's awesome in so many ways, but there's this niggle of, actually, maybe it's music. Actually, maybe it's creativity. Am I an artist, right? And so the work that we do in integrative healing, yes, is manifestation. Yes, it's healing. Yes, it's all of these things, but it's actually practicing listening to the soul and creating a life that's authentic to us. And this has become, I hate the word authentic, which is so annoying because it's such a good word, but it's so overused. Become your authentic self. What the fuck does that mean? Right? But there is actually depth to that, right? There are things that we are born to do that we do have a blueprint, we have a success blueprint, we have, and maybe we're very talented in many areas, and you obviously had to do Zoom first because that's the way
Mhm.
that it played out. And there's so
Yeah.
many skills that you've gained from there that are just like, you know, it's an incredible like education portal for life that you were in, right? And then there was this deeper part of you that wants to go down the great creative journey, right? And so this is kind of one of the things that people really experience in the certification is that you really peel off a lot of layers of who you're not, right? Who you thought you are, but who you're actually not. Like, I've got to be the strong one is who you think you are, right? But you're not actually that. That's just some armor that you found along the way, right? That's just a wall that you put up because you thought it was keeping you safe. I'm not speaking to Christy, I'm speaking to actually all of us because I've definitely done this as well, right? And so this is the beauty of the certification program because it gives you the space to go through this process. And so now we're going to talk about the certification and your experience, not 1 year, but 2 years in the cert. What were the main things that you took away? And did any of this lead to Christy's releasing an album, right, in November? And she just released a song called The Magician, by the way. I'll put the links in when I share this. But yeah, just talk to me about that. What were the main things that you took from the certification, and how does this connect to this music journey that you're on now?
Yeah, I think this one's really important because I also was reflecting back to when I joined the certification because I joined sort of mid-year or into it. And so there were things that didn't quite click and make sense. Where in year two, I was like, I finally get it. Like we're doing, an onsite. And I went, oh, I finally understand this concept. But it really, the whole process of going through it, and going through the certification actually really influenced my music quite a lot and really influenced my writing. When you're working in collaborative spaces, everyone kind of brings their own things into that space. And because I was going through this work at the same time and I was processing it within myself and embodying it within myself, that went into my music, that went into the lyrics, that went into the creation process. And I can remember so many sessions where, I'd start with a big conversation, but it would usually be something that I was learning in the certification at the time. I mean, I remember one of the, I was recording in Peru and I had just done one of the cert classes and I went into the studio session and was like, wait, did you guys know about XYZ and this and shamanic journey? And I started explaining all of this. And and my producers were looking at me like, this girl is crazy. What are you talking about? And I'm like, no, this makes so much sense. I'm like,
Like, this is going to help you guys when you understand this. So there's a serpent.
there's a serpent level, and then and jaguars are mitzvahs all live like, and it was really cool because actually at that time that I was learning about that area of the certification, I was actually in Peru, so you could see all of the kind of and later on in the year, I actually got to meet with some shamans. It was actually really amazing to have that kind of full circle moment for that year. But just everything from going in, and I think learning how to teach something is one of the most essential gifts that you can have because you actually embody it deeper within yourself. So kind of year one of the cert, I hadn't been, wasn't really practicing, wasn't, doing kind of some test things, right? But it still hadn't landed within me. And then I remember year two when it just clicked and I went, oh my gosh. And now because I'm leading sessions as part of the certification with others, it was a reflection back in within myself to go, okay, I mean, the things that I learned about myself on this journey, I think are probably the most important. And I can remember vividly, starting the certification process and doing a session. I remember Hannah going, you still have walls up, girl. And I'm like, I know. And I just looked at you and I was like, I know.
You're like, that would be in fact true. Yes.
I know. But I think that's why it's trusting the process. And I think, you know, um, it, this is also, I think, what's really important about the certification and the way that it's taught and the way that the modalities are brought up and the way that the bodies are brought up and the kind of structure of it overall really helps you understand to actually retain that knowledge because, especially being a constant student in life, there's a lot of things out there where it's like, here's for a short period of time, but really taking the time to do the integrating process and seeing how integrative healing ties in everything and really looks at the whole body. I mean, I remember being shocked. I think I was taking a yoga training at the time before this. And I just remember being shocked when they started talking about human anatomy and how most doctors only know about like a certain part of the body, let alone the whole body, let alone the whole like sphere. And so all that to say very long-windedly, I think the key takeaway is like this has been such an absolute incredibly important part of my journey. And I'm incredibly grateful because, it does take doing the work yourself. You do actually need to do the work. It's not just in theory. Study something in
Actually
theory,
does need to be done.
because I can remember on our certification, in-person certification, and the group that we had, and we're like, how could there be? Because you do all of the different, modalities and practices kind of back to back, and it's pretty nonstop, right? And I think all of us were like, oh, there's nothing more left at this point in time. We've released it all. We've gotten to the core wounds. We've cleared it, and then we get on this next session, and everybody's just like crying, having a moment, and being like, yeah, no, there's still more there.
It was like, there's nothing else, nothing else. And then I think it was you two together and you're both just like, oh.
There, I was just like,
Before we scare everyone, okay?
no,
Before
this
we
is
scare
amazing.
everyone, there's so many things that Christy has said that I just want to anchor in. So firstly, the fact that Christy did year two is amazing. It's not necessary. But the way that awareness works is it's like you said, it's like we can only understand something to the awareness that we've got, right? This is not an intelligence thing. It's got absolutely zero to do with intelligence. And it's got everything to do with there's this clicking point where suddenly it's not just be authentic, but you have had the embodied experience of what it means to be authentic and how that ripples out in your life. And so the reason that we do the certification as a year program, and I'm going to be honest, even though this is a little bit controversial, I'm kind of against these really like certified in a weekend kind of things, because like you can do maybe 20 hours in a weekend, but it's not even about the hours. What counts is that you learn something, you go and practice it, you have an experience of it, you come back, we discuss it. Like that's the actual learning and healing process. I love what you said about teaching something is the best way to learn it. I totally agree with that. And it's like for your own internal journey, right? Like you need to practice it. You know, we've got so used to, oh, I saw this quote on Instagram. And it comes from our school culture of, oh, for my exams, I learn all of this information, I get an A, and then I never have to use it again. Like, how many of you guys have used algebra since, you know, GCSE maths? I loved algebra, but I still don't use it, right? And so, what we're doing with a certification program is that we're actually kind of breaking down some of these structures that are normalized in the education system, firstly, but secondly, in this kind of obsession that we've got on reducing things to separate parts and being hyper focused in one area and not seeing the complete whole. So the first thing is embodiment over information. That's one of our principles. I wasn't even going to talk about this, but Christy, you just, this is, so thank you, appeared in my mind. The second thing is like you said with medicine. It's like in medicine, we see the arm as separate to the foot. We see the heart as separate to the lungs. We see, you know, you've got the heart doctor, you've got, but the actual truth is that it all works together and it's not separate. You can see it as separate, but it's not separate. And I remember when I was at school, my mum was a chemistry student and she would talk about like all of this competition in university about like, I'm a chemist, I'm a physicist, I'm a biologist. And obviously the physicist would be at the top and the biologist, oh, you're a soft science, you know. And I studied psychology, right, which was considered even softer. And we'd have these discussions, and I remember thinking to myself from like quite a young age, this is ridiculous because we would be way further as humanity. We'd be way further if they just fucking talked and discussed and shared information, right? And so my whole idea with integrative healing was that I've studied this for over a decade. I've worked with very, very, and you know this within the certification, very, very diverse teachers. I'm not someone that's like, oh, I'm only with the shamans, I'm only with the woo, I'm only like I really like complementary modalities, right? And I really like complementary energies. So in the certification, yes, we do look at the nervous system, yes, we do look at hormones, yes, we do look at all of these relationships, we look at different subconscious programs, like all of these different things. But it's, and I think it's when you're speaking to this now, I think the click is when people come to the in-person, and you didn't do the in-person until year two. And in the in-person, do you remember, we looked through all of the modalities and everyone goes, oh my God, Hannah's not crazy, this makes sense. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that was the moment you could just see everyone's face go, I've got it, it makes sense, it all works together. Because you can't talk about emotional clearing without understanding the nervous system. You can't talk about the nervous system without knowing about energy work. But all of these things are taught in separation. And it's my belief system that we're doing people a disservice by not teaching things together. And yeah, do you just have any thoughts on that, Christy? Was that kind of your...
Yeah, because that actually just brought back memories because I can remember us showing up with like our notebooks and like going into this and be like, okay, we're all very much in like mind, you know, because again, it is the training from an education system standpoint. And then it was like that moment when it all clicked and we're like, oh, okay, now this is how this goes over here. And this, okay, like it just had, there was so much clarity in it. Um, and I think that's important because we can get in our mind space a lot. And again, find ourselves, you know, myself included, tripping back to that, like, I have to get an A, I have to study and be perfect versus like, what are you feeling? Where are you in your body? Like, what's going on? And like actually understanding it from a deeper level. And, again, it is that awareness piece. And because I was also at the same time going through this transition from Zoom to music, which was also very a big step for me, because I can remember the first time going back and putting headphones on and being in the studio and being like terrified. And I'm like, this is something that I did for years when I was little. Like, I love performing, I love singing, I love this, right? But it was also, again, uncovering kind of those layers. And so that process really, I think, again, it's so important to have that self-awareness of like, yeah, you're going to discover more about yourself along this journey. And that I think is probably the biggest takeaway is like, and it shows in my music, it shows in when the album comes out, you'll see it through the songs that come out in there. Um, because it was a journey, and then this is why I'm adamant kind of continuing on beyond this, because it reflects back. And music is a very intimate thing that you can't hide anything in. It is your voice, it is your lyrics out there. And, I do think everything is a step and everything is a learning. And, I knew that was one of the things, when just to go back with the adventure, I'll call it, at Zoom, I remember this pinnacle point there as well when I went, oh my gosh, I see why celebrities fall apart. I see why people that make it into the big public spotlight fall apart. And I'm going, okay, there has to be something more out there. And that is what actually started me kind of on my calling this in and calling in certification and everything else. Because I'm going, there has to be something more, because you need to have a toolkit and you need to have a variety of tools and modalities. It's not one size fits all. Okay, just go meditate, go, do this one thing. It's like you have to be able to bring in different tools. And that's been really important for me with what I've learned through the certification is, based on what I'm going through, based on what I'm experiencing, um, what can I call in? Like, what tools can I utilize? What can I apply that's going to help me get back to center and release things that I don't need to hold on to anymore? That one had been a big one for me. Still kind of is in some ways, it's like, let that go. That's, that's not yours to carry. And I think when we go into all of the different modalities. I mean, I think, hormone healing had a big one on me because I was just not aware. I was like, I mean, I was aware to some degree, but not really paying attention to it.
Mhm.
It's like, and that's, I think, the important thing is you can know things up in your mind, but if you don't feel like it's so important to be actually embodying them. And that's what this certification helps you be able to do. And it's critical. I mean, I mean, and I'm going into spaces and things that I don't even know yet. But I'm like, okay, I've got my tools. I've got my toolkit, and it's ongoing, right? And it's ongoing deeper levels. Like I still discover things about the different modalities and things within myself because I'm constantly applying them into my day-to-day life. And it's not just this regimented, okay, this is what I have to do. I wake up, I do this thing. It's like, okay, something came up. Interesting. Let's look at that. This triggered me. Okay, let's look at this.
It's really fascinating what you said about it's getting out of that I need to get an A at school mentality to understanding that it's actually a journey of self-awareness, right? And it's a learning to live in a different way. And every time I do these videos, I feel like I'm falling in this chair. Every time it's like a nursing chair. I didn't really think it through. Anyway, if you see me suddenly falling backwards, you know what's happening. But it's when I do these videos with people that have done the certification, people say very similar things. I live in a different way now, right? I live in a way where I'm processing the things that are coming up, just like Christy said. I release what's not mine, right? I release, and what I notice in our certification clients is they become very rapid in doing so. I felt this came up, I cleared this, I move, and I move on. And so it's actually this form of healing and creation at the same time. The hormones and the nervous system is fascinating because it's one of those things that people think that they know, but they don't really know. Do you know what I mean? It's like people think, oh, I understand, especially nervous system healing has become a bit of a thing online, right? And so what people just teach is, oh, you've got a parasympathetic nervous system, you've got a fight or flight response, and then like just do some breath work and you're going to regulate. That's not really it. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a lot more to it.
Hmm.
And so a big focus is on actually understanding this from an emotional clearing lens, from a reprogramming lens, from a physical body lens. And we go into all of this. Another thing that I wanted to say is that Christy mentioned Peru. So the full body system is based off the Inca map of reality, right? This is not mine. I think it's really important. I'm a big stickler for this. Have you ever seen anyone steal your work and not give you credit for it? How do you feel with that? I am not being that person. Do you know what I mean? So, like, there are things that are not mine. That Inca system, the full body system, that's ancient wisdom passed down. That's not just me on some form of trip making up a structure of reality, right? Like, that's something that's been known for many, many years. Now, what the integrative healing system is I took that map of the universe, that map of reality, that map of healing and manifestation, and I took all of my years of study and research and all of these different modalities and put it within the four bodies. So we look at things that aren't taught in the Inca tradition, right? We look at all of these different modalities, but I use their framework because I found it to be, I haven't seen a framework that is as helpful, simple, or useful in all of my years. And it was the one thing that changed everything for me. I'm going through the points because Christy says so many amazing things. I'm like, no, speak to this, speak to this. The final thing that Christy said is that you have a very interesting journey. And what I love, and all the many, many things I love about you being here and speaking today, is that I've got two types of clients. I've got one type of client that is already successful. Like by anyone's definition, they are professionals, they're successful. We've got a lot of clients, like in Marbella, every woman there was successful and professional in her own right, right? Whether it's like conductors or architects or whatever it is, right? And you've seen the people that come in that had a successful trajectory already, like you, Christy, you've seen that money doesn't fix problems. Actually, money exacerbates inner problems. Let's speak to that in a second. And then I've got another journey of people that want to come in to learn the healing modalities, or they want to come in to learn business to scale a business. And this is amazing. And I love that as well. And the important thing is, they may not have experienced what happens after the wealth and money. And I actually just watched a movie yesterday, Christy, and I'm going to recommend it, live recording this. Have you seen Highest to Lowest? It's a new,
Yeah.
um, it's amazing. And at the end, he signs this lady on his new label, and he says, "Are you ready for what success, money, and all of this stuff actually brings?" And this is a conversation that when people are chasing success, they don't want to have. But I think that you need to know about it, not because it's scary, but because I think the rhetoric in the fame and the money and the success world has been, oh, that's just a flip side that you've got to deal with. I deeply disagree with that. Money, fame, visibility, it's going to amplify your wounds. And if you don't heal it, it's going to be very, very hard. Money doesn't heal inner wounds. Fame doesn't heal inner wounds. It just really, really amplifies what was there. And so, do you want to speak a little bit to that experience that you've had there as well?
Yeah, because I mean, it's such, again, getting back into kind of, my history and past, like, I remember those moments where I'm like, this can't be it. This is the thing. I mean, and I was actually pretty adamant on it because I went, wow, this is the thing everyone's chasing. That's not the answer. It's a byproduct. It's a byproduct, and that's great. And there is nothing, I am a Taurus sun. I love my luxury. I'm here for it. Like, don't get me wrong. But to exactly your point, Hannah, it doesn't solve the core wounds. So people have an expectation that, oh, when I am famous, when I am wealthy, when I have this, then I'll be happy, right? And I think what I saw, especially in my sphere, was how many people, you know, reached that level and then went, well, now what? What is it, right? And this is very, in the US, at least the way the US has been set up in the education system, it's been structured for years. It's like you go to school, you get a job, you stay in that job, wait till you're older, then you retire, and then you play golf or like something, and then that's it, right? And I don't believe I don't fully do not believe in it, because then here we saw people that were younger and younger being able to go and go, wait, this is the thing that I'm supposed to achieve like years down the line. But I'm here now and I'm alive now. so what is my purpose? What is my soul's purpose? Why am I here? What does that mean, right? And I think the other point to that is also really important because it's something that, I'm personally going in right now and experiencing is like, if I hadn't had these other experiences and if I hadn't had the certification, if I hadn't been doing all of this work, I would absolutely guarantee you the way that I was at before, I would not be prepared to go into music. I've gone to fashion weeks, I've gone to all of these things now. Like I've done a lot of stuff just in the last year as well, where the me who I was 3 years ago absolutely would not have been prepared for this. Absolutely not. I mean, I would have done it, but I would have gone into the same cycles again of the stress. Like I would have hit that same pattern again instead of going, okay, now I'm just going to learn more and go deeper about myself, but I'm coming in more prepared.
Adore this, adore this. So let me explain something, okay? Let's say, for example, you've got a wounding around not being seen, not being valued, right? What do people do? Okay, I'm going to become famous to try and heal that. So Matthew Perry is a really good example of this, and we've got lots of examples. I don't feel good within myself, so let me try and fix an inner problem with an outer solution, right? And I'm not against fame. I love, all I teach about is bloody money. Do you know what I mean? But there are ways and then there are ways, right? And so what happens is that when you get the fame and you think that it was going to fix the thing, then we get into this feeling of, well, I still don't feel seen. I still don't feel worthy. I still am struggling in my romantic relationships, whatever it is. And so people start getting into their minds, something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with me. And that's where people tend to go to these extreme things. Well, I'm going to go and do a medicine journey on ayahuasca, and I'm just going to hope that ayahuasca fixes everything. And then it doesn't. It doesn't, because the actual answer isn't as sexy, because it's a longer process of actually learning to know yourself. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I wish I could sell you a sparkly ayahuasca journey in a pink and glittery pot and tell you this is it, this is the magical pill for life. But I would be lying. And I'm not here to lie, I'm here to educate, right? And I'm here to transform people's lives. And I know, Christy, that you resonate with that as well, right? And so that's an example on the fame. But if we take it to money, and I experienced this, I thought, oh my God, first million, it's going to be so much money, it's going to be amazing. And then I realized it activated this extreme fear of loss, right? It felt more frightening to me. And those of you guys that have created something will have gone through this. You might still be in it. It felt more frightening to me. When I had nothing, it was less scary to take risks because there was nothing to lose. And then when I suddenly had what felt like everything, I became terrified that I could lose it. And no one told me about that until I found that on my journey. No one was talking about it because everyone in the manifestation world was just like, how can I have more? Now, I feel like more is a spiritual thing, right? But if we don't have this tool set, if I'd not had these tools, when I faced that, and I was like, oh my God, I've got this inner wound of loss that's an ancestral pattern. Let me do the work to heal it, because I've got awareness, because I've been working on this, and I've got the toolkit. So it's a blip, not a rut for a lifetime. It's not sleepless nights for the rest of my life. It's a small phase that was remedied fast. And so that's what Christy is speaking to. Like, with the fashion weeks, it sounds glam and amazing and beautiful, and it is. And people's stuff come up. It's like when you fall in love, right? You think, oh, I'm doing so well when you're single, and then you fall in love and you're like, I have things to work on. Like me. Like, it's exactly the same.
That's such a good example, right?
Yeah, because then you're like, and then you want to blame it on the other person, but then deep down that you do actually know that it's yours, right? And so we want to blame it on money, we want to blame it on fame, we want to blame it on the world, but it's our stuff. And so this is really what the integrative healing system's about, and the certification's about, and the work that I do is about. It's actually giving you a blueprint and a manual and a map for that, right? Because it's not that it doesn't exist. This work has always existed. It's actually just that in our education systems, algebra was prioritized over healthy relationships. Algebra was prioritized over money management. Algebra was prioritized over all of these life skills. So we've got to learn it now. What's something, if you feel comfortable sharing, Christy, that's come up for you as you kind of go into this music journey that you've been able to clean up quickly with the tools that you've got? You'd have to do something intimate, just something.
I know. I'm like, there's so many things.
Like,
so
there's so many things, and only some of them, Christy's a one-to-one client, I'm going to share in this space. Do you know what I mean?
I'm like, how much time do we have? No. Um, I mean, I think just to kind of, I mean, to summarize, like, and I think Hannah, you hit this spot on, like, regardless of what it is, the stuff, if you haven't done the inner work, the stuff's gonna come back and like be a blinding mirror back at you and go like, oh, there's still you can't you can't go place that blame. And I remember like there's so many things I won't spoil it for the group here because there's so many teachings that came up to mind while you were speaking. I was like, oh, I remember this one and this like certain things that I'd anchor into as I was clearing, whether that's clearing a drama triangle or being in the terror barrier, going through. And I have to say, Hannah, you do such a great job of like bringing in all of these different teachings and teachers and bringing that in under one umbrella that like again that's where to do this yourself that would take a long time.
Well,
And
this is
that's
what I say to people. They're like, I can do it myself. I'm like, if you've got 13 years, multiple six figures, hundreds and hundreds of hours, well, thousands, that you're
yeah.
working with the best, be my guest. Do you know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Exactly like
Like, be my guest. I'm sure that you can.
you can't get this anywhere else where you have all of this where it's understandable and like you can then dive in deeper on certain areas if you want to, but at least you get the framework and you have the bigger picture as you're doing this work. And I think, as I've been moving through all of this with my stuff, whether it's in business relationships, whether it's dealing with my own fears of just, oh my gosh, I think that's a common misperception that's out there. I fully believe that we're all multifaceted human beings and we all get to be multidimensional and we get to do all the things. That it's not just, oh, you're a businesswoman or you're an artist or you're this or you're that or you're a mom or you're a wife or a girlfriend or, a dog mom or whatever it is. Like you get to be all of you. And that's why this is so important. So, with things that I've cleared, I mean, there's things that have surprised me that I didn't even know were still in my subconscious or driving like a tab that was open that was still driving the show. And then I'd see something play out and I'm going, hmm, okay, well, I guess I need to go do some work right now because why am I getting this? And I think like emotion, like I think that's the most important part too, is like when we're talking about like how, mind and Stark's body, there's a lot of importance there, but like how our emotions and can run the show. And emotions aren't bad, good or bad, but it's being aware of, oh my gosh, is this triggering me in such a way? What's happening below the surface? What is the tab that's still open? Is that an inner child wound? Is it something else that happened even a week ago? Or does it go deeper? Like, what's the thing that's coming up for me? And that pattern has been consistent because again, there are things that have absolutely surprised me. And I'm like, why?
Like, that's not mine. Is it
That's
mine?
not
It
mine. And then I was
can't be
like,
mine.
okay, that is mine. But I think that's also clear because when you start to clear up what is yours and you get to know your soul and yourself and your being so much more, it also is really helpful in going into whatever dynamics. And I think for everyone here, in whatever it is that you're doing, whether it is relationship dynamics or business dynamics or things, these things will keep coming up. And it's really important to understand what's your side of the street and what's not yours. And I think especially, a lot of these spaces can bring highly empathetic beings and individuals into the spaces. And, when I was little, I had no tools. I was just out there in the wild going, why? But I think
Is
that's
this
really
not
important.
working?
I don't understand. And then it's like, go to the doctor. Here, just take some stuff. You'll be fine. And I'm like, no, but I think that's what's also really important because you get to also understand your energy field. That was probably another big takeaway for me is understanding my energy field, understanding again what that is and what that means. And also when entering in, spaces with others, how to set myself up to keep my energy clear. And for doing music, it is so imperatively, I have my microphone right here, which is why I'm looking over. I'm like, because I've been very adamant about this. It's so important to have your own clear energy that you're bringing into the space. And I fully believe in when you're creating music, like any energy that's in the space goes into the music. And if that's not a clear channel, that's going to go into the song. And then it might be like kind of mid of a song. Like it's not going to be what you're looking to achieve and looking to channel and bring in. Um, So there's a lot of parallels with like this work and how I've applied it into my music creation process, which is like absolutely, absolutely essential. But these are the things that would come up for me, right? Because again, everybody is their own unique person, right? Everyone's got their own stuff, including yourself. And so when you bring those dynamics together, whatever it is, whether it's in family, whether it's in business, whether that's in interpersonal relations, whatever it may be, that stuff is always going to come up. And so it does give you strength, and not in the sense of I'm strong and I can do all the things myself. It's to go, okay, how can I show up more fully into this experience and then also know when to let something go and also not to have that disrupt what like your own journey, if you will. That one's really hard. It's really hard.
It's even the same as business. If there's one thing that I've seen in business that really slows people down, it's over listening to other people and it not being a clear creation of what they've come to create. Because it's so easy, whether it's music or business or whatever you're creating, we're all creators, to accidentally create someone else's dream, right? Because you're externally focused instead of internally focused. So Christy, let's start kind of bringing this to a close. I'm just thinking, is there anything else that you think that people considering doing either the certification or the global uni? Quick distinguisher, and I'd actually like you to speak to this as well, because I have lots of people that do the global uni and then do the cert, and I've got lots of people that do the cert multiple times. There's a difference from doing the global uni and doing the certification, because it's like when you say, when you do the certification, you're practicing the processes and it's through the facilitation of others that you embody it within yourself, right? I think that that's a really big aspect of it. But for you, I mean, I don't think you've ever done the global uni on its own, but you know what the global uni is. You know what the cert
I
is
drop
supposed.
into my sessions at whatever hours during the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Christy just turns up. I'm just so Christy wakes up. I'm very lazy, right? And I've never worked in tech, so I've not been an early riser. And Christy, I'm like, Christy, what time is it? She's like, 5 in the morning. I'm like, of course it is, darling. Great to see you. I hope you're in your pajamas. And sometimes you're actually ready for the day, which I'm very impressed by.
Exactly. And I do sleep now more. I sleep actually proper hours, so I'm also able to balance that early rising.
This is true. And actually, I want to talk about kind of where you are in terms of health and everything else now as well. But yeah, just quickly for you, for people that are specifically in the global uni or are toying between global uni to certification, obviously it's a different price point. The global uni is 15K, the global uni VIP is 20K, the certification is 25K, the certification VIP is 30K. Yeah. So it's a different price point. Um, for an obvious reason. But yeah, what's your experience of both and the distinction?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind for the certification, for those that want to go deeper and
Mm-hmm.
really go deep, that I highly recommend the certification. I know also sometimes when you're on the fence or you're figuring things out, I have to say this. I mean, I couldn't even, based on my journey and where I was at and where I was headed, if I had not joined into these programs, like there is no price tag that I could actually put on the value of what I have gained. Like there is literally none. Like I'm like, so my distinction there is more so about for those that want to go deeper, and sometimes it takes time and you'll know when you kind of know within your ethos when that time is. I think the global uni is really great from an introductory standpoint as well for getting to kind of become familiar with different teachings with different tools. I also think global uni is amazing as a community, and that's why I'm here in it as well
Yeah,
because
Christy's still in the community,
I'm
to be
still
fair.
in it
Like,
and I
she
still
hasn't
come to the
gone anywhere.
sessions. And I've had moments where I'm like, I go back to, different teachings and different sessions based on what I'm going through. So I think, the cert takes you deeper. And if you want to really go deep within yourself and that, and you're ready to, I highly recommend it. I think it's one of the best things you can do. But also for the global uni, I mean, just being in the global uni is paramount and key. And there's so much that you do also learn through the global uni. And I think it's also important to have consistency of listening to sessions. So I'll go and replay things from the past, from both actually.
Mhm.
Again, depending on what I'm going through, because things are going to land differently. Like it is an ongoing process. Something that you hear a year ago, you hear it again and you're like, oh, okay. Now, because it is like it's this layering of getting to know yourself deeper. And I think that's the most important journey that you can go on here on planet Earth is getting to know yourself and your soul and trusting yourself. Because I think also a lot of times we can come into these spaces where we have been rocked off kilter, where we don't trust in ourselves, where we're believing all of these other projections, from others instead of going, well, who am I? And what is my
Mhm.
purpose? And what am I here to do? And tapping into that. And that's the greatest gift of all. So I highly recommend both. I'm obviously been in both. But I do think for those that are ready to take that step and go deeper into, because teaching it will help you embody it even further. And it's going to help, and not to say that we're on any sort of timeline because time doesn't exist, but it does accelerate your deepening of awareness because you are going into an intensive basically. But you're integrating it the whole time throughout the year. And that is, again, where a lot of things fall short. Because it's like, again, here's 2 days, here's a weekend, here's that. It's like, no, you're constantly integrating. And then you have a support network. And I think support networks are also really important as you're going through this process.
Global uni is really awesome if you want the blueprints, right? You've got the blueprints of relationships, the blueprints of leadership, the blueprints of different business aspects of business, whether it's sales, whether it's systems, whether it's any of this stuff, the blueprint to a specific reprogramming, blueprint to manifestation. So it's really beautiful for that. But I agree, the certification is a deepening. And something to say with the certification, unlike a lot of certifications, I never got certified and got business training at the same time. So I finished certified in all of this stuff and I was like, excuse me, what's next? Like I had no idea how to monetize. Like distinction to Christy, I don't come from a business space. I was just saying I'm a hippie of the dream. I'm now like an internal hippie, right? Like, I say hippie, um, I basically just mean a spiritual person, right? Someone that lives from these different inner beliefs and values. But I really, really felt, and the business training, I'm going to go as far as saying it, is helpful if you want to build a digital business. But I have clients that are realtors, I have clients that are architects, I have clients that are musicians like Christy. We don't teach trends, we teach concepts that are true, right? And so there's a big distinction in that. Getting a business level training is helpful, whatever you want to do, because it's applicable. I've got someone in medical research and they're applying the business trainings, right? So it's just understanding that the way that we've done the global uni and the certification is probably a little bit different to what you've seen prior, because it's very much built on universal laws, universal principles, concepts, multidimensional blueprints. Final question about the practicalities of what people could join. So we've got the certification, we've got the global uni, VIP. I always say to people, if you can do VIP, get in on the VIP. Do you know what I mean? Because those WhatsApp groups go off, don't they? Like so much is integrated, shifted, and I'm just going to say I'm very good. I'm very good in a quick WhatsApp
I can
space.
vouch for that.
But I feel like it'd be more appropriate if you said it, Christy.
But it makes sense. But I can vouch for that. I'm also really big. Like that's the other thing. Like and Hannah and I we've talked about this, but it's like I won't vouch for things that I personally have not gone through myself. And there's a lot of stuff that's out there. There's a lot of things, and it's like, no, if I have it, if this, like, I will only vouch for the things that I've gone through. And goodness knows, like, yeah, no, Hannah, you're really good at this.
The end. Nothing else to say. If that's one area you're really good at, and Christy's been in everything. I feel like you've done everything, like within
Yes.
the structure.
And
So
and I
supporting
have had
women.
all of my stuff come out during this time.
So let's finish with this. You started an amazing career in tech, but it had consequences in terms of relationships, in terms of health, in terms of armor. I think is the best word to use
Yeah,
for you. That's the
100%.
walls, isn't it? And then there's been this massive journey of self-discovery, learning to live in a completely different way, learning to live from the tools. Christy's really good as well. I love clients that just do it. And like Christy texts me, this is coming up. I tell her she does it. Oh, now it's like it's so easy. It's amazing, right? So Christy is actually, I can vouch for you, always actually applying, right? Everything that's taught. So you've kind of gone through this journey. Where are you now?
So now, I mean, I just launched my second single. The album comes out in November. I'm building in a lot of different ways right now. TBD, TV shared. For those of you that connect after seeing this session, you'll get to learn more about the journey that I'm on, which is really exciting. But it is building in a very different way than I have done before, because I did have sort of a perceived safety of, oh, I need to be part of this big company or part of a company to have safety, which I learned like that's actually not true. So I'm building this in my own way. And I will also attest to the importance of having kind of the business trainings in, because even though I came in as a business leader, et cetera, and so forth, being able to tie that together into the whole journey is so important, especially when you are building things in a new way and you're building a new mold, right? You're not going back into the same pattern. So it's like, okay, here we go. So I am, I would say if I categorize the beginning of my year this year, it'd be venturing into the unknown. Now going through, this past year and through, all of the different learnings and whatnot, that I have clarity around what my next steps are. And then who knows what next year brings, but I know it's bringing good things. And, I can say that with full confidence.
Health, you're
Health,
sleeping.
I'm sleeping. I have a regular schedule. I'm back into my running. Like I wake up because before I'd have to have a zillion alarms to wake up in the morning. I wake up naturally again. I have my cute little pup is over here cuddling in. I'm eating healthy. And I think, but the more biggest thing is like, I don't want to tick off things of like, oh, health, and here's just what you do when you're healthy. It's like my system, I can clear and catch things when my system starts to go haywire again.
Mhm,
It starts to, something triggers it into going into that kind of mode, into fight or flight. Like I can actually calm back down and regulate,
mhm.
which was impossible for me to do before. I'd just be like, "Whoo, spiral," and I'm out. Instead, I'm like, okay, I'm here. So I think the biggest thing for me is that I've come to a center and I've come to a really strong center. And so even as things come up, it doesn't mean things won't come up, and they do come up. It just means I can get back there quicker than I've ever been able to do before. And that is what allows me to sleep at night.
And relationships have been a big shift for you in the sense of, and I think a lot of tech people relate with this, you harden sometimes through success journeys. I think it
Yeah.
happens a lot to women because we're in this suddenly male dominated environment and it becomes survival, right? Okay, let me be like them, let me protect. And I think one of the biggest things that I've witnessed in you, Christy, is that your relationships, your friendships, your community, like the people that you're surrounded by, like they're just getting better and better and better because that's a match to all of these walls that have come down for you internally. And I think that's been one of the biggest night and day things. The singles are I Can't Do This Pretty, Christy Fliss, Christy spelt with an I, and
Yes,
The Magician. Okay? And exciting things are happening, but I know we're not allowed to talk about exciting things, but they're going to be very cool and
they're
they will be
happening.
played soon. Yes. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Christy. I really appreciate
Thank you,
your time.
Hannah. I appreciate you, and thank you all for joining today.
Oh, I'll get this bit caught when I'm trying to figure out where to find the. Okay, stop recording. I thought it hadn't recorded.